Hello, everyone, and welcome to Anime Club After Dark, the podcast that delves into all things anime, manga, and otaku culture related. I'm your host, Alex, but you can call me Senpai. And joining me tonight, I have our poser extraordinaire, Nitai.
Ready for some BNA jam?
3, 2, 1. Yeah, we're going to be talking a little bit about BNA, the latest and I won't say greatest, but the latest anime from Studio Trigger.
Brand new anime.
Brand new anime. Yes, that's exactly what BNA stands for. And being that this is a spoiler cast, of course, we may and probably will spoil just about anything in the show. So if you haven't seen it yet, well, this is your one and only warning. So when we usually do spoiler cast, we usually have a structure for how we go through it. We're actually going to do something a little different this time because I think while you and I, Nitai, generally liked BNA, I think we also both admit that there are some glaring problems with it.
Yeah. Also, I think it's just a good general rule of thumb. Like, even if you enjoy something, like, you can still be critical of it, you know?
Absolutely. Just take my favorite anime ever, Spice and Wolf. I think it's great, but there are many problems with it. Many problems.
I don't know, man.
Mostly
Baccano is
there's
perfect.
no third season.
Baccano is perfect. There's anything wrong with it. So I don't know what you're on about.
It's the best. We have the best anime. But yeah, BNA. So
Studio Trigger.
It's Studio Trigger, and it's actually kind of a little bit of a departure for Studio Trigger because Studio Trigger has this tendency to announce their anime like at least a year and a half, 2 years out before they actually release. This one was announced back in, July of 2019 at Anime Expo.
Yep.
And it came out less than a year later.
I mean, at least for Japan, yes. For the rest of us on Netflix, it took a bit more time.
Yeah, I mean, it aired on Japanese television during the spring season of 2020. One of the very few anime that actually aired during the spring season of 2020. And for the rest of us out here in the wide world, we got it at the very end of June. Yes, June. On Netflix. It was directed by Yo Yoshinari, probably most famous for directing Little Witch Academia, which is my favorite Trigger anime. Also written by Kazuki Nakashima. I'm just great with names today, by the way. Who in the past has written episodes of Gurren Lagann, Kill la Kill, and Promare.
Yeah, pretty ingrained in the whole Trigger studio.
Yes, in the mythos.
Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
For sure. He's also worked on some other stuff outside of Studio Trigger as well. And as I said, it was a spring 2020 anime. And let's talk about what we actually thought worked about this anime first.
Sure.
Because I think that might actually be a somewhat shorter list.
I think both you and I can agree that the whole aesthetic of the show is pretty top notch.
Oh yeah, it's like it's
just
pure Yo
pink
Yoshinari.
everywhere.
Like, those character designs and this. It's peak Trigger, like the art and animation style. It's peak Trigger.
Yeah, and also I really enjoy the whole the color scheme of the show. There's just this neon pink all everywhere, and when I was watching the show, there was this thought that was going through my head. Man, this is such a cartoon, and I'm so okay with that. You know?
Yeah.
It's so.
It's got that like Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah. Very much so. It's like
which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, I think a lot of people,
that's why I love
anime
it.
Fans might, a lot of anime fans might hear that and just go like, "Ew." But like for me, I fucking love it. It's one of the reasons I love Studio Trigger because they've kind of cornered the market on this niche. Like for me, I watch a Trigger anime, especially one it's been worked on it all by Yo Yoshinari, with a bit of nostalgia because that sort of art style that a lot of his work has is very reminiscent of how anime styling was in the late 90s, early 2000s when I really got into anime, which is really why I like his style.
Interesting.
But you also, something else along with the neon pink colors that are everywhere, a lot of like the environmental colors, the trees and the sky and the clouds,
Yeah.
very pastel colors.
Exactly.
which is a huge contrast.
Yeah, it's like super refreshing because I don't know, it doesn't feel like most of the shows, like seasonal shows that we see, like have this look, which is great. Just looking at the show in motion is just such a fun experience.
Yeah.
It's
And I think that you and I are probably in agreement that throughout a vast majority of the show, the animation was 100% on point.
for the most part, yeah, it's very energetic, very jumpy. I guess yeah, it's just it keeps moving for
Yeah.
most of the show. Like we'll get to it, but like I remember watching the first episode and just the very actually simple transformation of some of the characters is just so lively, like the first time Shiro is transforming from like regular person to like a guy with a wolf head. It looks so just lively. I don't know, that's the word I would use for it.
I completely agree. I forgot where I was going with. I guess this kind of falls under the art and animation aspect of it.
Yeah.
I like
What?
in the background art, you see a lot of faux name brands, and they're all
Yeah.
Western brands, and I fucking love it.
In the OP as well, like the thing, like the third shot or something is just the streets and all. And there's so many different brands. Like I think one of them is Dogway, like Subway,
Yes.
something stupid along those lines.
It's
Like,
so
I love
fucking
that.
stupid, but I love it.
Speaking of the OP, what'd you think of it?
The OP and the ED of this show is amazing. I just wish they were longer songs.
Yeah, that was surprising watching the OP, and I'm getting into this. This is really good. Then you hit the 50-second mark, and it's like really going at it, like the animation itself. Both Michiru and Shiro are running along
And
the
then it's
song.
like, it's over.
Yeah, and the song is just wrapping up, and then it's over 10 seconds. Like, no, I need more.
And then you go try and find more, and there's fucking nothing.
But the full song is so good. I'm just thinking also, just use more of it, please. It's so good. But then the ED is so wonderful.
Oh, yeah. It's chill as fuck.
And I really like the animation of it. Apparently, it's not done by Trigger. It's done by this animation studio. It's actually a Canadian animation studio called Big Ant.
Really?
Yeah,
I did not know that.
It's done by Big Ant, which is a Canadian animation studio. It's not by Trigger, and I absolutely love this ED.
Well, they fucking hit it out of the park.
Yeah.
Show you now have something to aspire to.
And also
Canadian anime.
and animation aside, the song as well is just, as you said, chill as fuck. It's just a real bop. I listen to it quite often now. But man, do they use this song all the time in the show?
And the overall OST as well is really, really good. I have a very difficult time putting my finger on it. The best way I can describe what it sounds like is like a very mishmash, like amalgamation of funk, hip hop, and jazz.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like
and it fucking works. Like all the characters have like their own little themes, and it fucking works. It's a great backdrop to this the urban atmosphere of BNA.
Yeah, very much so. Like those aspects of the production are really top notch all the way through, and it was just super enjoyable to experience for sure. Like that's something that if people would ask me if they should watch it, I would say yeah, totally. Just for like the whole atmosphere of the show. The atmosphere in general is just so much fun and lively, and yeah, I really like that part.
I also thought, I mean, not a whole lot to say about this, but I also thought the voice acting by and large was on point.
Yeah.
I don't know because I don't know if you watch this on Netflix or not.
I watch it on Netflix.
Did you watch any of the English dub?
No, I haven't checked out the dub actually.
I've only watched the first episode dub so far, but I actually think it's pretty well done.
I think
so
in terms
props
of
to the English dub voice actors.
I might check that out. In terms of like the Japanese dub, I really enjoyed like all of the cast, but I think like the standout for me is Shiro.
Oh yeah.
Also, I mean, actually Michiru as well. She was just really fun. Apparently, she also sang the OP, which is pretty dope.
Yes.
But yeah, those two I think they were like the standout performances for me.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, that being said, we're praising a whole lot of stuff about this show.
Yes.
Do we want to jump more into the characters, or do we want to...
I mean, some of the characters are... I really like Michiru as a character. Like, I like her...
Yeah.
I like how she starts out as, like, super naive, because she's kind of a fish out of water in the story. And she's got this, what she thinks is a disease... that she's trying to get a cure for by going to the whole Beastman City. And she's really naive about how everything works, and it's kind of fun over the first episode or two watching her try and understand the world that she's in. And I also like that she's got, like, kind of true to form for a lot of Trigger protagonists. She's very energetic, upbeat, kind of positive, more often than not.
Like, she's a kid, pretty much.
Kinda, yeah. Also, she's cute as fuck.
I really dig her, like, design.
I'm not a furry, but I do like her character design a lot. I like a lot of the character designs of, like, the animal forms of the characters. That was one thing. Another thing that I think this thing should be praised for is, like, how creatively designed the like the animal versions of the characters.
Yeah, and also, like, just, I mean, we're jumping around, but, like, I really like the culture they sort of like just show you throughout the show. Like, I really like that. Oh, they stay in human form, but when, like, things get heated and, like, they get emotional and confrontational with each other, the beastmen turn into their beast form. That was just like a small, like. After, like, once they say that, and they establish that, throughout the show you get these small, like, bits of, like, you see the beastmen turn into beast form because, you know, it suits the scenario, I guess. And that's a really cool aspect of the show that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I did like the fact that they took a show instead of tell approach to, like, the whole culture of the city itself, which takes a couple of episodes for, you know, to come out. But it was fun to watch. And I also like that the show wasn't afraid to dip into some really light moments, like, you know, Trigger is kind of known for having these, like, big action set pieces,
big dumb moments, yeah.
Just actual stupid comedy. Great example would be the baseball episode, which I believe was episode 5?
Yes, I think it's episode 5. I think so. Yeah, that's episode 5.
Yeah,
that one was really fun.
The entire episode is essentially an homage to the movie Bad News Bears.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That's pretty dope.
In fact, it's it's an homage to the Bad News Bears so much. The episode title itself is Greedy Bears.
That was a cool episode, but I think what really cemented to me as one of the better episodes of the season was the whole, like, story of the coach. Because at first it's sort of just a stupid character on the side, and it's not really interesting.
He's just a character who doesn't care.
Yeah, but then you go through his early life, and it's like, it's not. I wouldn't call it deep, but it just I did find it interesting, you know, because again it just tackles, oh right, this beast society wasn't always just in this city. How did they integrate into like human culture in general? You see this, like, this athlete going through these games and people just shitting on him constantly, and it's just, yeah, it was just a really fun episode. I really
I also kind of like he's down on his luck because he's gambling at baseball, which is what he's coaching. I don't know if it's meant to be, but it sounds a lot like the real life story of Pete Rose, who did get in trouble for gambling on baseball while he was managing a team.
Oh, really? Which team did he manage?
Well, he managed a couple. But
oh, okay. I know nothing about baseball. Like, I don't know.
I forget who he was managing when he actually finally got caught. But yeah, it I don't know if it's meant to be an homage to that, but it certainly seems like it. But it's stuff like that I really like about this, where, you know, it's like episode 5 is essentially a breather episode.
Very much so,
because it's just stupid fun. And it's
especially after episode 4, which was like It was
Yeah,
yeah. But also episode 6. I was going to talk about episode 6 specifically, because of the whole Nazuna reveal.
Yeah. A hell of a reveal.
Yeah, which is okay. So the whole setup of Michiru suddenly changing, like she's a human, but then one day she changes into a beastman all of a sudden, and then she decides to leave human society because she would just be hunted. And then the first episode is pretty much a chase scene of her fleeing to Anima City, and that's a funny name, and trying to like figure out shit. And I like like those bits and pieces of throughout the first few episodes of she had this friend and she got kidnapped, and I'm like, okay, let's see where this is going. And then her friend Nazuna is pretty much, she's a cult leader now. Which was pretty cool. And also Dio appeared, and then you suddenly realize, okay, I guess this is a bad guy now.
Oh, you're approaching me?
You're approaching my pop idol? And that was like, and at this point, like I thought I had this show figured out, but then that's the thing about Nazuna. Like suddenly she's not stranded to this cult. She's using that because she wants to be adored and loved and be famous, which was interesting, but it didn't go anywhere. I don't know.
Yeah, I also like how there's so many subtle hints throughout the show that there may have been a lesbian relationship.
I fucking knew you would go there. I knew you would go there. They're just good friends.
Listen, I didn't have to go there. The show went there, Natai.
Did it though? You're just saying because she wanted to sleep with her one night.
Yes.
Come on. I mean, it's probably Yuri bait. They knew what they were doing, but still.
Of course it's Yuri bait. Why the fuck would I talk about it if it wasn't Yuri bait? It's there. It's there, fuck Natai. It's fucking there. They hint at a lesbian relationship between these two characters multiple times.
Can we talk about Shiro real quick?
Sure, Shiro's awesome,
dude. I haven't looked it up, but I think it's the same actor who voices one of the characters from Gintama. He's like a policeman in Gintama. But man, Shiro was such a from the get go. I love Shiro because the moment you meet him, he's like it's in the festival and Michiru is walking around. Then she sees this older wolf guy and he's crying. And from just in a second, this guy has more personality than like almost any character because why is he crying about it? And it's like, and it's not played off for laughs, it's just it's like what's up with him? And it's
no, it could have very easily been played off for laughs too, given what's going on around them.
But it doesn't. And as the show goes on, you get to know him better. And I think he's like the best written character in the show. Yeah. I don't know if it's like if that's a hot take or anything, but
hell if I know. I'm looking up the voice actor. I don't think he was ever in Gintama, but he was the voice of Reiner in Attack on Titan.
Oh shit, that's right. Maybe that. Okay, I mistook. That's probably why.
I mean, we have just familiar. Watched Attack on Titan.
Yeah.
So.
I don't usually I check when I hear someone that's like super familiar, but I don't know. It's super familiar to me. I was like, wait, who is he?
I mean, he was familiar, just not the character you thought he was.
Oh, maybe I'm thinking about anyway, but yeah, like Shiro was really just a really fun character. I really wish we would have gotten maybe just like maybe it's just me trying to pigeonhole this show to something it wasn't. But for some time I thought it was gonna be like a buddy cop sort of show, which it is from time to time, but it's not really committed to that.
No, it doesn't commit to it, and I think had it actually committed to that, it would have been so much more fun. Like if it had just become like, what's that fucking movie series with Eddie Murphy and
Rush Hour?
Jackie Chan.
No,
Rush Hour.
If
it had just been Rush Hour, that would have been phenomenal.
That's not that black person. It's Chris Tucker, bitch.
Chris Tucker, yes. I'm sorry.
But
I actually just recently rewatched Eddie Murphy's Delirious. I have Eddie Murphy on the brain.
Oh,
Stop.
gotcha.
Sorry.
But anyway, it's like on the one hand, it felt like I don't know. I got the vibes that maybe it was going there, and for some of the episode, it does, but then it doesn't. it feels like the show isn't too sure what it wants to be about, because I mean, okay, so a lot of the show is pretty much just like about racism between humans and beastmen.
Yeah.
Right.
It certainly becomes that after like the first 3 or 4 episodes.
Yeah. But we talked about it before we started recording, but I feel like it's not very nuanced, you know? It just pretty much
tries to be, but it doesn't know how to be. I think so. I hate to delve into other Trigger shows, but I think this kind of also happened with Darling in the Franxx to some extent, where Trigger tried to tell, and of course that was a collaboration with A1 Pictures as well, so I can't necessarily blame Trigger entirely for this. But they tried to tell a really nuanced, very human story with Darling in the Franxx. And like the first half of it, they did a really good job, and then towards the end, it just kind of fell on its face because it kind of forgot what it was trying to be. And I feel like to some extent, the same thing happened here with BNA.
Because it's so strange. They established this world which is really cool. I really enjoyed the world building in terms of like, we talked about the backstory of the coach and just in general the dynamic between Anima City and the Japanese government, and just the first episode, I absolutely love how she escapes the city and these hunters are like trying to get her, and then when she tries to get into Anima City, those fucking weasels are trying to get money out of her to get her into the city.
Excuse me, Minku.
Also, yeah, was it Marie? I think,
Mari.
Yeah, Mari. That character is top notch. Her theme is the best in the soundtrack. But anyway, and then they delve into rights, and the episode with the albatross is really cool because it talks about the moment they wanted to give us equal rights to humans, but that means most of my kind birds can't fly and migrate what's the word? Migrate.
Migrate, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. It's late.
not immigrate in Thai.
No. I know. It's sorry. It's very late. And migrate because they're birds, and humans just shut them down because now they supposedly have human rights and they can't do that, and that's really smart. That whole episode is super smart, and I like that. But then you get to the end of the show, and it ends up being just a plan by as you said, a mustache-twirling villain.
Yeah, I mean that's another one of the things that kind of disappointed me about this was the main villain. What's his name? Alan Silvesta.
Yeah, that.
However the fuck you say it. That, yes, it's Sylvester Stallone.
Alan Sylvester Stallone.
Yes. Like when he's first introduced, I'm thinking, my God, Trigger, are you just gonna make the most obvious villain ever? But then I thought, wait a minute. Maybe Trigger is setting me up for a huge, like, anticlimactic thing at the end, like, where it's gonna be, he was actually a good guy all along. This is the bad guy.
And they try to play it off like he is like a good person, but
Yeah,
you never
there
buy
was a
it.
part of me. There was a part of me, I want to say near the middle of the show, where I thought maybe at the end it's going to be like a complete reversal, where the mayor of the city is going to end up being the actual bad person, and Alan's going to be the one that's fighting against her. And I'm like, oh, that would actually be really great. And then they get to it, and it's like, nah, I was the mustache twirling villain all along.
It's so and like his character really pissed me off, especially in the final episode, because like you don't mind me jumping there right now,
Oh,
right?
go ahead.
It's like,
I mean, we're kind of jumping around already at this point, but
I mean, it's a Trigger show. But anyway,
triggered.
So in the final episode, he reveals himself to be a pure-blooded beastman, and in that moment, I was like, really? He's a beastman all along.
Could you be any more of a stand-in for Adolf Hitler if you tried?
It's such a, and you couldn't even commit to a human like just trying, like being evil and bigot and a racist. And to some extent, my expectations were subverted, but it's so much worse. It's like, exactly, it's just a Nazi beastman.
He's literally a stand-in for like Goebbels.
Pretty much, and I don't get it. It feels so kind of, I don't know, lazy. And then we get the fight scene between him and Shiro, and it just feels kind of, I don't know. It's just, and not to mention that twist at the end where like so they build up this thing that because beastmen are not pure blooded, they have this like sort of part of their body that like when they get too emotional or something they go savage, and he says he very clearly states yes, pure beastmen don't have this like genetic malfunction or whatever, and then he becomes savage as well because it's like. Really?
Yeah.
And they try to play it off.
That's
And they try to play it off. Oh wait, because he somehow in this backwards way got Michiru's blood, which makes sense, but it doesn't. It doesn't feel earned, you know.
it feels like it's stolen, honestly.
Yeah, it's like really.
Which is. This is a problem that I've noticed in Trigger Anime recently. I mean, not necessarily like everything that they've done recently, because like this didn't happen in Gridman or Premiere, but it certainly happened in Darling in the Franxx, where you commit to all these plot threads, and then by the end you just like, nah, we're going with this, and like you can't do that. Like there were a lot of plot threads that were opened up and kind of explored a little bit earlier on, and then by the time that the conclusion came around, they're like, nah, just evil dude being evil.
And it's so strange because I really liked. So we did some research right before we started recording because because it just I really want to try and understand
because
why
we're responsible podcasters, Natai.
And also because like we're trying just to figure out like what happened with this show, because so it's episodes 4 and 6 were written by a different screenwriter. I don't have the name right on
Nanami
screenwriter. Higuchi. And that person is super talented apparently because
he wrote all 12 episodes of Beastars.
He wrote all of Beastars.
Fucking phenomenal. If you haven't seen it, go watch it at some point. I really want to do a fucking spoiler cast for Beastars 2.
Now, granted, Beastars is based on a manga, so they did have something to work off of, right?
Yes, but, and BNA is a complete anime original.
Yeah, but the thing is, episodes 4 and 6 were written by that person, and I feel like those were some of the stronger episodes in terms of writing and nuance. Like, episode 4 was focusing on this dolphin girl who wanted to be like a social media personality, I guess, right?
She wanted to be an influencer.
And when they go off to that party of humans, that whole section is really cool. I really enjoyed that, and not to mention how it ended, where they just shove her inside an aquarium because they're like, oh, she said she couldn't breathe, and I'm like, oh.
She's
shit.
a dolphin, right? She needs water. No, bitch, she's a mammal.
That episode was great, and episode 6 with the Nazarene reveal I really enjoyed that, where she was like, no, I want to stay in this cold. I want to, mainly because out of selfish reasons, but she wanted to, fulfill her dream of being a pop idol, which is like, okay, interesting. But then when you go, I can't remember which episode was it that it felt like it was declining from that point on. Maybe it was 8 or 9. I can't remember specifically, but the end of the show just feels like it's only loses all nuance and just turns into this very racism is bad, don't be reckless, don't jump into conclusions, and it's like
those are good messages.
Yes,
there's
not
nothing
like wrong with
we
that.
haven't heard a million times before.
And I mean fuck it, just look at the social climate, especially in the States right now. It's something that people need to kind of understand,
Yeah,
but
again, it's not like it's not like something that hasn't been said a million times already.
And the world establishment is done so well, and some of these episodes are so good and so just well done. I
genuinely wonder if this show would have been a lot better had Higuchi actually written the entire show. I
do wonder. Also, I wonder if what it would have been like. I didn't really like 12 episode show, but sometimes I feel I'm just trying to imagine what if this show was like 2 chords,
Yeah, or I think it would have been better had they had like maybe 15 episodes. Just 15 episodes to kind of flesh out the ending a little more, give the villain some actual character development.
Maybe, because like they try to give Alan more stuff to be because they say, oh, he's part of the family that killed those beastmen back when the first massacre happened. But
Yeah.
man, when that happened, I was like, really? You're gonna try and I don't know. And also, they make the plot. They try to turn it to be more convoluted than it is. Like in terms of motivation. So okay, she meets Nazuna, and yeah, I'm part of the cult. And then the cult is like working with Alan behind the scenes, but it's not stated literally. And throughout the show, they tell Michiru to, don't show people who can transform, but she does it anyway. It doesn't go anywhere. It just feels like
Yeah.
I don't know. I think they could have gone they should have focused on something more simple that it could have developed more and more as the show went on, instead of just throwing so many different things at it that clearly didn't stick, you know?
Yeah. And that's something else. Like, you look at something that Trigger did a couple of years ago with Keysnifer. That's another show that could have benefited from maybe 24 or 30 episodes. But what did it get? 12.
Didn't they say that they wanted more episodes, but they just couldn't?
Yes. Written by Maria Okada, by the way, who wrote fucking Machia.
Anohana.
Yeah, and Anohana. Yeah, she apparently came up with like 33 or 34 episodes worth of material, and Trigger's like, you got to cut this down to 12.
I don't know. I'm really curious. I mean, because I'm dumb. I can't do journalism, but I'm really curious if someone would check like the production stories of BNA, because something feels so off about how this show like just like.
I feel maybe
I don't know.
Maybe there was more to it, and it's something similar to where, you know, a project was brought to them that was like 24 episodes, and they're like, we don't have the budget for this. Can you do 12?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just so strange. There's just something so off about like the later parts of this show, because I mean, both you and I will agree that the first half is really solid. It's really fun.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the first like 7 or 8 episodes are really good. I'd say around episode 8 is really narratively starts to fall off a cliff.
Yeah, and it's a shame because, like, again, the world is really it's an
excellent. Interesting world that's created, and I would like to have experienced more of it, because you see little snapshots here and there of certain parts of it, but at the end of the day, by the end of the show, you're left wondering like, well, what else is there in this world? What else can I see? What did I miss?
Maybe they just had a really hard time trying to get a villain into this show, like an actual antagonist that would work as like an antagonist, both, you know, just like as a force, both like, you know, as in terms of themes and like that whole like dynamic between him and like the protagonist, also, and also just who could fight. Maybe that's part of it. They just, oh shit, how do we turn this into a big fight?
And not just have someone who throws a bunch of goons at people.
Yeah, it's.
It almost feels like the villain Alan is almost an afterthought. It really does. It's almost like they came up with this great formula for like a buddy cop thing, and they're like, "Oh, who are they gonna fight?"
Because when they establish him as like, yeah, he's part of the reason, like that conglomerate he leads, like they help the city, like just, you know, stay afloat and stuff, and the whole medical center, like,
yeah, it's the whole reason the city's allowed to be independent.
Yeah, like I thought that was interesting. Also, he's involved with the medical center as well. That was pretty interesting.
A great political thread to explore that goes absolutely nowhere.
Absolutely nowhere, and it's just.
Do you know what that could have been a great thread to open? Maybe the fucking mayor's office is full of corrupt people. That would have been a great thing to explore.
I mean, I guess, but I think like if the mayor would have turned out to be the antagonist, I feel that sort of would have betrayed her character, because I think her character is like, she's fine. I don't have any issues with her character. Although, I don't know, it's so weird, because I really like. Then they established the gangsters, which I absolutely love. I love that Flip character, right? the father of the dolphin.
Yeah, that's funny.
I like the part of the ending where the cops are like, you had all these illegal weapons. It's like, well, I bet you're happy you have these right now. It's like
giving illegal weapons to the cops, and the cops like, where'd you get these? Oh, you don't want to ask that question.
And also the dynamic between the police officer and Shiro, I really like that. It's just there's so many things put in place that are just in our stories that are so interesting and fun and just like they're just well thought out, but they go nowhere, and it's like it's like
and
they had this.
I was gonna say that's the most frustrating thing. Like, as much as you and I love this show, it's got some really glaring issues.
Yeah, it's
and I think a lot of it has to. I don't want to say like studio meddling, because the studio itself is the one that made it.
Yeah,
but I feel like there was some kind of meddling with the story that went on, whether that was because of a budget cut or resource cut or something. I don't know, because it's not like Trigger has an enormous amount on the table right now. I mean, besides BNA, because they'd already finished Premiere, the only thing they had announced was the sequel. I use that term loosely, quote unquote sequel to Gridman that they're working on, and allegedly Inferno Cop Season 2, although I'm dubious as to whether we'll ever get that now that the voice actor for the main character has died. And I mean, they just recently announced that they're also doing anime adaptation of Cyberpunk 2077, but like, it's not like they had an enormous amount on their table.
I don't know. I really want to know like how the production of this show went, because it is interesting that like it was announced, and even less than a year after it was announced, it started airing. Although maybe it's not that special, but I don't know. I do want to know like what happened
for Trigger. It is, because
for Trigger it is.
They tend to announce their projects like 2 years in advance.
Yeah, that's true. But
that's what they did. That's what they did with Darling the Franxx. I think Darling the Franxx was like 2.5 years in advance before
that show had so much like marketing that went towards it. Also makes sense because A1 also was a part of it. But
yeah, and A1 just throwing their fucking massive wads of cash at Trigger, saying, "Make me fucking anime."
Yeah, but it's, I don't know, something is so off with BNA, and I can't remember the last time I watched the show and felt this like felt this way about it.
But
yeah, maybe because we liked it so much, but just something so off about it. And I wonder if there's something that went behind the scenes. Maybe they just didn't plan it out too well. Maybe in pre-production they just had trouble just finding a good ending for it. I don't know, or maybe they just are not good at like writing nuanced like stories concerning these themes. I don't know. I don't know.
I hate to say that Trigger shouldn't do like really nuanced stuff, because I think you and I both agree Trigger is at its best when it does like irreverent, really fun stories. Like Premiere, I know you haven't seen Premiere yet, I don't think.
No, I haven't.
But it's irreverent, it's fun, it's not a serious story at all. Same thing with Kill la Kill. Same thing with Space Patrol Luluco, with Little Witch Academia. I mean, these are not deep, probing stories that delve into like the human psyche or some like deep, nuanced issue. They're just fun.
But I mean, and again, I haven't watched most of these shows, so I need to do my Trigger homework for sure.
Yes, you do.
But I mean, and again, Gurren Lagann isn't Trigger; it's Gainax. But a lot of these people worked on Gurren Lagann.
Yeah.
But say what you will, that show is nuanced. And from
Gurren
what
Lagann
I've heard,
certainly is.
And Kill la Kill, from the very little I've heard of and seen, it potentially nuanced. And Gridman, for the very little I've seen, has potential. Like it's about something,
Yeah.
And obviously BNA is about something. I just don't feel like it stuck the landing when it came to like just giving a payoff to its themes and what like all the themes it put in place.
Yeah, I completely agree. They did not stick the landing. They had a great concept that could have worked very well. They just didn't stick the landing at all, which is a shame, because they created an interesting world full of well-designed characters and great OST. It's just a shame that when it came to putting together the whole package, they ran out of shit to do.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird.
It really is weird. But I think you and I. Well, I'll wrap this up by asking a question I ask pretty much at the end of every spoiler cast. So what numerical score did you give this out of 10?
I give it a 7. Although the more I talked about it, maybe it will go to a 6. But I think it's a solid 7.
See, I feel like if you've listened to this podcast for any of the time, I'm a huge Trigger fanboy. So this is going to be my huge biased opinion of it. I gave it an 8 out of 10. mostly because I really like the character designs, really love the soundtrack, love the art, but as you like you said, the more I talk about it, I'm like, that should be like a 7 or a 6, you know this, and I'm like, I can't.
Yeah, but I don't know. For me, I think it is a 7. But yeah, there's just something. This show, man, I don't know.
Better.
Yeah,
could have been so much better.
I wish it was better.
Yeah, me too. I guess now we just have to hope that the only 2 things, technically 3, that Trigger has on the horizon is the Gridman sequel, quote unquote sequel. Maybe Inferno Cop season 2, which first season of Inferno Cop was really good. And
Cyberpunk should be
anime.
interesting to see.
That's going to be really interesting because it's going to be Trigger going back to doing something they haven't done for a while, and that's making an adaptation. Although I guess you could technically consider Gridman to be an adaptation.
That's true.
But other than Gridman, the only other adaptation of something they've done is when supernatural battles became commonplace, and that show was pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's BNA. I mean, we enjoyed it, but God, it's got some problems.
Do you think they will make a second season?
I don't think so. I think that Trigger. I was shocked as hell that we're getting a continuation of Gridman. Trigger doesn't have a habit of making sequels to the stuff that they make. So I'd be shocked to find out that there's going to be a sequel to BNA. I mean,
who knows? Maybe
the story for what it is feels like it's done. I mean, it may not have been a good story, but it does feel like they tried to wrap it up.
Who knows? Maybe they're like laying the groundwork to like make more franchises type of shows out of their library of anime.
Maybe we'll have to see.
Yeah.
But for now, thank you all out there for dropping to listen to us. We hope you enjoyed it because we always enjoy bringing this stuff to you. If you want to check out other episodes of the podcast, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, BitChute, SoundCloud, and Spotify. If you want to keep up with what we're doing, you can join us on Discord, Facebook, Twitter, and our website. Shoot us an email if you have any questions or if you have ideas for topics you'd like for us to talk about in the future. Links to all these things will be down below in the description. As always, I have been your host, Alex, and I will see you next time. Say goodnight, Natai.
It's not Yuri. I'm telling you, this show is not Yuri.
Listen, I'm going to tell you once.
Don't loot the girls, please.
No. Michiru was giving Nazuna bedroom eyes like a motherfucker.
I'm out. I'm going.